Hello, good afternoon, and once again, welcome to our personal development class. I'm excited about today because it's the very last episode in our review of the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I hope you have had fun. This is our very last episode, and I'm reading a passage from page 667. Everything that happens once can never happen again, but everything that happens twice will surely happen a third time. I'm not very sure if I agree with the first part, because if something happens once and it never happens again, how do you get the things that happen the second time or the things that will happen a third time? You get what I'm saying? But basically what the passage is trying to say is that more often than not, the things that happen, the opportunities that we get, they usually will happen once. Okay, so there's never a time in your life where this very moment, with all the opportunities you have, the friends, all the factors that come together to make this time of your life unique, it is very unlikely that you are going to have these same set of circumstances in your life, maybe the next year or the next 5 years or the next 10 years or ever. You may have similar experiences, but to relive this moment and all that it represents or brings in exactly the same form is very, very unlikely, because life keeps changing, lives keep moving forward, and things keep evolving all the time. And so you need to understand that, first of all, if you are going through a good part, things are good, things are beautiful, you need to live in the moment and enjoy it, because you will not pass this way again. Whatever it is you are enjoying today, tomorrow is not promised. So whatever is good, whatever is beautiful, whatever is amazing that you are enjoying right now, don't rush through life. Take a moment, pause, take in a deep breath and enjoy it, because you may never have this same set of circumstances again. The converse is also true. If you are going through a really tough patch and something terrible is happening to you, are going through something that is really heartbreaking or difficult, don't ever think that this storm will never pass. At some point, the storm is going to pass and the sun is going to shine again. You can never relive time. And so if it is bad, just wait it out. And if it is good, pray that you get that patience to sit and enjoy it whilst it lasts. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 3 that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. But no two seasons are ever the same. The Bible frequently shows how human beings, we behave in patterns or cycles. We are creatures of habit, and we tend to do the same thing over and over again. When you look at the nation of Israel, many times they'll leave God, they'll go and chase other gods, they'll face the consequences, they'll come back, they'll come and repent, God will take them back, then then they forget, then they go back. And this pattern was repeated many times in the life of the children of Israel or the nation of Israel. But the thing about life is that whatever is happening to you may be a recurring something, but until you, the person experiencing these recurring themes, until you change, until something inside of you changes, these patterns will keep repeating themselves. Something has to change, or else you keep going in that same cycle, and that is what we would call a vicious cycle. And sometimes when the same unpleasant thing, nobody complains about good things, so if the same unpleasant thing keeps happening to us, it may symbolize or mean that God is showing us mercy, and He's giving us opportunities to redo things differently or to involve him more. Something about the way we are doing what we are doing that is giving us the results we keep getting has to change. And each time you are faced with the same scenario, it is our God in heaven giving you mercy, showing you mercy, and hoping that this time around something about you would change to bring about a different outcome. Job 33, 14 and 15 says that God does speak, now one way, now another, though no one perceives it. So sometimes God will keep talking. He will talk in different ways, but he's talking about the same thing. And the situation will keep repeating itself until God brings a divine invitation that would finally bring you to an awareness that no, there must be something wrong with the way I'm doing this. And we know that they say whatever you sow, that would you reap. And so if you keep sowing the same kind of seeds in whatever scenario you see repeating in your life, the cycles are repeating, repeatedly failed relationships or failed businesses or something about your life that keeps not going right, it means that there are certain seeds that you keep sowing and you need to find out and change the input. If you don't want the outcome, then do what? Change the input. Because a certain behavior will keep giving you the same result. I think it was Einstein that said that you cannot keep doing the same thing and expect that you get a different result. That is his definition of insanity. So what is it that keeps returning into your life? What is that cycle that keeps repeating itself? It may signal that maybe you have boundaries that need strengthening. Maybe you are somebody who loves too deeply, too hard, who doesn't scrutinize people to understand their motives very well. You take people in assuming that everybody is like you, and people will keep hurting you because you have not strengthened those boundaries. You need to come to a place where your boundaries are stronger, and it is not anybody, me, I'm like that. It is not anybody that needs to have access to my life. You need to strengthen boundaries. Sometimes it is about healing that was never complete. We all have been wounded, or at least most of us, I know I have. We have been wounded in some way, in some form, sometime earlier in our lives. And these wounds affect our choices. It affects our worldview. It affects the way we show up in life, in relationship, in leadership, at work. And until we have learned to heal from these wounds that were inflicted upon us rudely by life and circumstances beyond our control, we would keep making errors that are a result of these unhealed wounds. Sometimes it is about wisdom that we haven't completely formed. You need to have a certain kind of working knowledge and wisdom about certain things. But once you don't have, or it is not well formed, it is not complete, you are likely to keep making mistakes in that era. So you are in a business and there are some things about the business that you don't know yet. You haven't figured it out yet. And so you keep making the mistake in that particular place until that wisdom you need to acquire is complete, until you go back to school, until you study, until you get a mentor who will hold your hand and teach you the ropes. And anytime you see repetition in your life, repetitive cycle, it is a kind of instruction, and you may need to pause and reflect and dig deep into the recesses of your soul to find out why this particular thing is recurring in your life. The second part of the passage, what happens twice will surely happen a second time. This time, whatever we are talking about has shifted from a mere event to something that becomes a pattern. So it becomes your pattern. You realize that you are doing the same thing over and over again repeatedly. You keep going into relationships and coming out. You keep making the same mistakes. You keep having children with different women. You keep going to find jobs. You do the job very well for a month or two, then you slop, and then you are sad. Then you find another job. And so in your life, in your relationship, in leadership, at work, there are cycles that are repeating, and these are not pleasant, obviously. It may be that there is a lesson you are yet to learn that you have still not learned. It may be a spiritual warning. It may be a decision that is wrong and you haven't corrected the decision. You keep making the same flawed decision all the time, and life will keep repeat. You see, when we're young, I don't know if it's like that, but when we're young, in primary school especially, they would sometimes repeat you because you didn't do well in class 2. So you will repeat class 2 until you can do well and pass to class 3. That is how life is. When you are in stage 5 of life, for example, you need to pass the exam of stage 5 before you are ushered to stage 6. And so if you haven't passed that exam there at that level will keep coming back in different forms until you pass it. And this applies to our everyday choices, relationships, our emotional patterns, the way we act to situations. It shows up in our leadership actions. It shows up in how good a follower we are. And until you learn, these things will keep showing up. Page 681 of Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. That is where I am, and that is where your treasure is. The moments or places that move you deeply, especially those that move you to tears, they are not accidents. They are usually places where truth, your purpose, and God's presence meet or intersect. That is where truth, purpose, and the presence of God touch your very life and your very soul. Tears are not weakness in these kinds of scenarios. They show that you have encountered something that means a lot to you. Something that matters very, very profoundly to you. There are times when you recognize truth. Sometimes there's truth around us, but for some reason, we just don't see it. Sometimes everybody is seeing it, but we don't see that this is truth. Until that time when the truth, your purpose, and the presence of God intersect, and the mask comes off, or everything clicks. And in that moment, when you come to the realization that so all this while you've been living in a fool's paradise, or all this while you've been treating somebody good who was indeed the person who loved you the most, that is when the truth comes out and it moves you to tears. Sometimes you are moved to the place of tears when you come into contact with divine purpose, whatever God created you here for. Whenever, like for me, I'm very passionate about children in need, children from underprivileged backgrounds, and when I see them, there is always something inside of me that shifts, and I wish to God that I had the power in the world to do everything and anything I can for them. And your treasure always lies where your heart becomes fully active. So open your heart and mind, and you'd realize that wherever your heart comes alive, the fire in your heart starts burning, you start shedding tears, then you are very close to what God created you for, your purpose. You are brought to tears when you encounter your calling, when you come into contact with injustice or situations that you were meant to correct or to work around. hurts that you were meant to heal or correct. Okay, so the things that God created you to heal and correct, when you see people going through those things, you are quite passionate about it and you wish you could do something about it. You are moved to tears when you laugh deeply. There's a kind of love that you love and it moves you to tears. That is why sometimes you go to weddings and you see people cry. You are brought to tears sometimes when you step near God's assignment for your life. Your tears would always reveal your soul or who you were truly meant to be. According to this book, The Alchemist, and even in scripture, your destiny, your treasure, whatever God created you to be, it often hides inside circumstances that move you the most. And every time, anytime there's an illusion around your life, tears will break that illusion before you finally see the truth. We as human beings, we love comfort, we love control, we love places where we can build expectations, we like security. Nowadays, the young women of today call it soft life. Like human beings, we are naturally people who like soft life. But the truth is that whatever God has called you to, it doesn't matter. Whatever God has called you to would lie outside of your comfort zone. Almost invariably, nobody ever accomplishes their purpose by being in their comfort zone. And you moving to that place of transformation from your comfort zone to a place of purpose, it would always involve some level of emotional breaking, and that may come with tears. Remember Peter when he denied Jesus 3 times, and then when he heard the cock crow, he wept bitterly. And he wept because at that point, those tears were signifying the death of pride and the birth of a true disciple. That was when that transformation came from the place of comfort where they were following their master around and enjoying the accolades of following Jesus, to that place where they had come to the realization that indeed my Jesus is not there anymore. He has been crucified or is going to be crucified, but I still need to make that decision that I'm a disciple of Christ. And that is what brought the tears and the birth of the true leadership and discipleship of Peter. And that failure, the place where he failed, when he realized that indeed he denied the Messiah 3 times, that became the doorway to his calling. And it is the same for a lot of us. That place where we come to the realization of our failure, of our weaknesses, that we have come to the end of our rope, that we have toiled all night and caught nothing, that we have put in our best, but our best was not good enough. When we get to that place where that illusion is broken, and we weep, that is a fertile ground for us to transit from our place of comfort to a place of transformation and our new or next level. That is when we step into purpose. And you hardly cry over things that are meaningless. You cry over love, you cry over injustice, you cry over longing, you cry over the call of God for your life, and you cry over unfinished purpose. And the last thing I want to describe here is brokenness. Sometimes we are moved to tears when we come to that place of brokenness, and that is where our heart is ripped open and we cannot pretend anymore, and everything that is truly in our heart pours out to God. And this kind of state of brokenness is so important, because when you have a closed heart, it is very difficult for you to carry responsibility or accept responsibility for anything. In order for you to get to that place where you stand chest out and you are waiting to accept responsibility, you need to come to that place where your heart is open, and that state of brokenness and pain, it enlarges your emotional and your spiritual capacity for what God has called you for. And when you are at that place where you are best open from brokenness, that is where empathy deepens. That is where you are able to put yourself in the shoes of somebody else and understand their situation exactly. And that is where you are able to move heaven and earth to make sure that you change their life for the better. When you are at that place of brokenness, as you enlarge your emotional and spiritual capacity, your wisdom grows and your discernment sharpens. And many people in the Bible who were leaders were shaped this way. They needed to come to that place of brokenness. Joseph came to that place through the betrayal by his own family. David came to that place through persecution. And Hannah through infertility. Infertility drove her to the point where she cried, but you could not hear any sound. Your tears would expand your capacity. Anytime you are at the place where tears are falling because you have been broken in a certain way, those tears are meant to increase your emotional and spiritual capacity. So don't waste the tears. So don't let bad things happen to you in life, then you cry and then you just move on. When I caught this revelation after reading this book, I told myself, never again will I be brought to the place of tears. And that place of brokenness, that place where truth is broken, where my illusions are broken and I see the truth. Never in my life again should that place be just an event. It should be a place where I turn over this pain and convert it into increased capacity in any sphere of life, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, even in my finances, relationally. It should increase my capacity and expand me and make me a better version. Across all the life stories I've heard that we read about in the Bible and in secular books, there is always this time in your life where there's disruption, something you are expecting to go left will go right, a relationship you're expecting to last a lifetime will end abruptly, sometimes without warning. It will bring you to tears, it will bring you to surrender. But after you have come to that place of disruption and tears and surrender and brokenness, after that time, there's always this period of clarity where your eye clear, you see the truth. And then from that stage of clarity, you move to the stage of transformation, because all of this pain and all of this truth that you have now come to the realization of, it should change something about you, about the way you relate, about the way you talk, about the way you think about other people, about your love for humanity. Something in you will shift and it should bring about positive transformation. And as you transform and become that better version, then you are better equipped to go on to your next level, because there's a treasure waiting for you. There's a deeper level, there's a higher level after this time of disruption and transformation. And your crying place really becomes your turning place or your turning point. A lot of the time, even when I reflect on my own life, it's true for me too. A lot of the time, after some years have passed, after some decades and months, when you look back on your life and the most painful places of your life, you realize that those were the moments that redirected your life in an entirely different direction, that has brought you to the place you are today, that has made you the person you are today. I have had the advantage of extreme pain and tears and difficulty And I look back now and I see how these difficult places in my life transformed me into another level. And life is in cycles. And so now, after I'd overcome that very difficult and painful and teary part, I moved on to a large place, and I've come back once again to this level where there's a lot of pain and tears, and I can feel in my spirit as God is slowly touching me and transforming this period and transforming me as He gets me ready for my next level. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anytime you are going through a shitty or difficult experience in life, it is an opportunity for you to transform and metamorphose and mold into a higher version. You are molting from a kind of caterpillar to another kind of butterfly. Anything that feels like loss today, if you go through this period well and gracefully and with the help and guidance of God, in the next few years, you realize that this place was only a port as you transited to your next level. And on that note, we end our review on the all-time classic, The Alchemist. I hope that you do find time to read through and through for yourself. There are so many more lessons in there than what we've been able to discuss. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. I invite you to come on the next journey with me as we discuss The Leader Who Had No Title, written by Robin Sharma. Shalom, peace, and life to you, as my general overseer likes to say. Ciao.